Okay, for you all, I'm going to make some admonishments and just make sure everybody understands, because the Texas Supreme Court has issued some rules and requirements, and one of those requirements is that we must be in person and I must be physically in the courthouse unless there is a good cause and agreements. And so I need everybody to understand, I, your judge, am not in the courthouse. Ms. Tanner, I'm assuming you understand that. Mr. Mason, you all understand I'm not physically in the courthouse, and do you have any objection to that?
No, Your Honor, I understand.
Mr. Mason, you're muted.
No, Your Honor, we agree. We set this by agreement for Zoom remote.
Okay. Well, it's just a little bit different though, because even with Zoom hearings, I'm in the court building, even if you are remote, but today I am not. And so I just want it to be super clear on the record that I am not physically in the court building. Okay, well then let's start with just some brief openings so that I have a better understanding of what you are asking the court to do this morning, beginning with Ms. Tanner.
Yes, Your Honor, my associate, Ms. Mahastri, is going to be doing our opening.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Nisreen Mahastri, and we represent petitioner, the father, Hunter Calloway. The child, the subject of the suit, is Carson Hayes Calloway, who is 5 years old. We're here today on final, and that we are requesting the court to appoint the parties as JMC, to designate Mr. Calloway as the conservator who has the exclusive right to designate the primary residence of Carson, to award Mr. Calloway as a conservator who has the exclusive right to make educational decisions for Carson, including but not limited to enrolling the child in public or private school after notification to Ms. Milan, to grant Ms. Milan a standard possession order over 100 miles in accordance with the Texas Family Code, to order Ms. Milan to pay guideline child support, and exchange locations to continue at the halfway point at HEB. This hearing was set by the parties after mediation failed. The parties were not able to come to an agreement on which party had the exclusive right to make educational decisions and enroll the child in school. This case has been on file since April 7th of 2022. Around this time, Ms. Milan had moved to Fayetteville, Texas, and to live with her boyfriend's mother at the time. Then after being served, Ms. Milan violated the standing order by moving to Beville, Texas, which is in Austin County. A motion to enforce was filed September 1st of 2022. And in October, the court heard the enforcement at temporary orders. At that time, the judge found that she did violate the order and appointed the parties as temporary joint managing conservators, 50-50 possession, and the meeting point to be closer to the father's residence, and no child support was awarded for either parent. The parties agreed to attend a proper full hearing to address the rights and duties in a possession schedule. The parties decided that the child will be enrolled in school at the age of 6 instead of last year. However, as of the end of August 2023, my client found out through Facebook that Ms. Milan enrolled the child into school. Once again, she violated the temporary orders. The temporary orders state that decisions concerning the child's education be by agreement. Ms. Milan has no disregard for the law. Our client believes that he should be the primary parent and Carson should go to the school closest to his resident, and the reasons being that Carson's support system is here, including Ms. Milan's parents. All families and friends are in Cedar Park. The child's doctor is here. The child is involved in a lot of extracurricular activities that you'll hear about, and you'll hear Mr. Calloway testify to. Both parents come together in this area, and my client believes it is in Carson's best interest to live in Cedar Park. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Mr. Mason, your response?
Now, I do want to object strenuously to one thing that Ms. Mazzari said in the opening statement. Judge Burgess specifically stated when we had the hearing on temporary orders and the motion to enforce that it was not well brought. He never said that she violated the standing order. She never was held in contempt. Your Honor, as a matter of fact, I was reviewing the file yesterday and this morning, and Miss Milan Parker now was never even properly served with a motion to enforce. She had already moved out of the restricted area. She was living in Fayetteville with her then fiance's parents at the time that she was served. She wasn't even served until like a month after the petition, the original petition, the SAPSR was filed. And no, Your Honor, she was not held in contempt, and there were temporary orders entered. My client has been the primary caregiver of this child. As a matter of fact, Mr. Hunter was essentially absent for the first 2 or 3 years of this child's life when my client was living in California that he never raised an objection to. My client has been the one that has been the primary caregiver. Your Honor, she has altered her schedule so that she's around her son. She works at the school district in Beville in the food services division. Her son is almost on the same identical schedule. My client has provided health insurance through her own employment and now through her husband's employment. Mr. Calloway has not even bothered to look into insurance as far as I know, and I know he certainly hasn't obtained it. Your Honor, it would be a travesty to award Mr. Calloway the right to determine after his actions that have taken place. And Your Honor, I understand that he's shaped up to some degree, and we are in favor of joint managed conservatorship. That's not a problem. My client is willing to restrict the residents to Austin County and maybe even Travis and the contiguous counties. And she wants the right to make educational decisions. She's not even asking for guideline child support. Your Honor, you've seen our pretrials, our proposed disposition of issues. I'll be submitting them to evidence as well. We're just asking him to reimburse the cost of the out-of-pocket cost for the health insurance and any uninsured medical expenses of 50-50 division. And we have no issue with Mr. Calloway having regular visitation. My client has even offered to do the transportation to and from where she lives, to Cedar Park and to where Mr. Calloway lives. And my client does have a lot of family in the Belleville area as well, and so does her husband. And the evidence in the testimony will show that her mother, Becky Malin, is going to be moving to the Belleville area to help out with the child born. She still helps out quite a bit. Really, that's about all I have right now. We are asking for what we had outlined in our pretrial, but I just wanted to clear the record that my client wasn't even served until after she was already in Fayetteville, Texas, well after that. And that's all I have for my opening on.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Tanner and Ms. Mahesri, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll call Hunter Calloway.
Okay, Mr. Calloway.
1 second, let me unmute.
Okay, turn your camera so that it is landscape so that we can see better, please. And just try to be right there in the center of your Zoom tile.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
All right.
Okay, very good. And I see that you're with your wife or
Yes, ma'am.
Paramore.
My wife.
I just need to see you right now. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. It is important that you testify based on your own memory, and only you will be testifying. So no assistance from any other person during your testimony. Okay. Just like you're in a court of law, just as if we were in the courtroom. Please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. You may proceed with questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please state your name for the record.
Hunter Calloway.
And Mr. Calloway, how are you currently employed?
I'm self-employed.
What do you do for a living?
I own a roofing company. I do exterior construction, window siding, roofing, fences.
And what are your work
Things like
hours?
Whenever I work, I can take off whenever I need to, and I can work whenever I need to. Typically,
Mr. Calloway, I'm still struggling to get a good audio for you.
okay. Can you hear me better? Can you hear me better?
Yes, you were previously on two devices. One for video and one for audio. Did you lose one of them?
I may have. It still shows that I'm on the audio call, and I'm on the Zoom through the app.
Ms. Foley, are you having the same trouble hearing him that I am? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a little muffled.
We're not going to be able to do your testimony until we can hear you and see you. So you need to make whatever adjustments you need to make in order for me to be able to hear you. And Ms. Foley's taking down all of the words from the court. And if she can't hear you, we don't have a clear record either.
All right, give me 1 second.
For the witnesses who are not testifying, that's everybody else. You, other than the parties, Marissa and Hunter, everybody else can turn and should turn your video off. That'll allow the court to focus on the witness who is testifying. Okay, so muted microphones and video off until it's your turn to testify. You can also go into the waiting room if you choose until we're ready for your testimony. Okay.
Can you hear me now, Your Honor?
It sounds a little bit better, yes.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Tanner, let's go ahead and try and see how it sounds.
I apologize. I realized you didn't hear me. On an average week, Mr. Calloway, what are your work hours?
On the average week, about 8 to 5.
And are you able to get off early on the days that you have Carson?
Yes.
What schedule do you have right now with Carson?
We trade off. Marissa and I trade off every Wednesday. I have them Wednesday to Wednesday. We trade off it typically at 1 p.m., but the last few months she's been wanting to meet at 4.
And so you've had a 50-50 possession schedule, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
Oh, what, close to 2 years now? Or I think over 2 years now.
And how old is Carson?
5 years old.
And let me go back for the court. In preparation for today's hearing, did you prepare a budget?
Did I what? I'm sorry.
Did you prepare a budget in preparation for the hearing today with regards to your income? Can you hear me?
Okay, I've got a
Yes,
couple
yes,
issues that we need to address. Number one, you cannot have assistance from anyone else for your testimony. I can't have someone else answering in the back of the room. So whoever is with you needs to be removed from the space where you're testifying, okay?
Me?
Yes, Mr. Calloway.
Okay. All right, she's gone.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Tanner, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you, in preparation for today's hearing, prepare a budget for this court with regards to your income?
Yes, I did.
And at this time, Your Honor, I'm going to ask my associate to pull up what's been marked as Petitioner's Exhibit 11, I believe, which is our proposed support decision.
Okay, she should have the ability to do that. Thank you.
And Mr. Calloway, is this a copy of the budget that you prepared to get ready for today's hearing?
Yes, it is.
And is this a true and accurate reflection of your monthly income as well as your withholding and your monthly expenses?
No. That's the wrong one.
What's wrong on this?
I don't make $7,000 a month.
What is your
The
monthly
wrong.
income?
4,800.
Okay, well, we'll come back to this then.
Okay. The one I sent should reflect that.
Okay,
you want me to resend it?
we'll come back on that. With regards to your employer, where is your employment? Is it in the Austin area, Cedar Park area? Where are you employed?
Yes, typically. Greater Austin area. We do roofs, window siding. The Greater Austin area.
And where do you live?
Cedar Park, Texas.
How long have you lived there?
My whole life.
In the current home, is it a house you live in or an apartment, a condo? What is your
A
living?
We live in a house. We've lived here for 2 years in this house.
And who lives with you?
My wife, and then my 2 other children.
And how old are your other children?
I have a newborn. He's 3 weeks old. And then we have a year and a half. The other one's a year and a half.
And they both live with you full time, I'm assuming?
Yes, ma'am.
The house you live in right now, how long have you lived there?
2 years.
And with regards to the possession schedule, you stated that the exchanges are supposed to be at 1 o'clock, but they've been at 4 o'clock. Why is that?
She said that she couldn't get off work, so she couldn't meet me until 4. It's been like that the last few months.
And she being whom?
Marissa Malin,
And where does she currently live?
Belleville, Texas.
How far is that from where you live?
Believe about 2.5 hours.
And where are you currently doing the exchanges?
In Elgin, Texas, at HEB.
And the 50-50 possession schedule has worked up until Carson has to go to kindergarten. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have there been concerns with the 50-50 possession schedule, or have you all been able to co-parent for the most part pretty amicably?
No, we've been able to co-parent pretty well for the most part.
And is the main concern that we've been unable to come to an agreement on is where he's going to live primarily when he starts kindergarten?
That and where he's going to go to school.
And did you and Miss Milan agree that you would wait until next year for him to start school so we could resolve this issue with the courts?
I agreed. She wanted him to go to school. In fact, last time we had court scheduled, when it got pushed back, she had told Carson that as soon as he goes back to mommy's, that she's going back to school.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained?
At her house.
And Mr. Calloway, if you cannot tell us anything that Miss Milan told another party, just
Yes, ma'am.
firsthand knowledge that you have, okay?
Yes.
So she's currently living in Belleville, correct?
Yes.
How long has she lived there that you know of?
About a year and a half.
And where did she live before that?
She lived with her mom in Cedar Park.
Was there a period of time that she lived in Fayetteville?
Yes.
And when
it was
was
a brief period. It was in between Cedar Park and Belleville. It was very brief.
So where was Carson born?
He was born in Cedar Park, Texas.
And you've been in Cedar Park his entire life, is that correct?
Yes.
And Miss Milan was in Cedar Park up until when?
Up until I believe Carson was about 6 months old when she moved to California.
How long was she living in California?
She was there for 2 years.
And you heard in Mr. Mason's opening statement that you were basically an absent father those 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
And why was that?
Because she moved to California with him. So originally we agreed that she would move out there for 1 to 3 months. She wanted to clear her head and she was going to come back. Once she went, she never came back until was pretty much forced to. She was told she had to move out of her sister's house, which she was living in with her sister and her brother-in-law. That's when she moved back to Texas.
What year was that? And if you could stop,
20
if you could just stop, if you could stop moving, please. What year was that?
It was 2021, I believe.
So in 2021, where did she live?
She lived in California.
And she came back to Texas. Where did she come to?
Mr. Calloway,
back
I'm
there.
still hearing a lot of background noise. Is there a way for you to get in a space where we don't hear someone talking in the background?
There's no one. I'm the only person upstairs at my house. There's no one talking near me. I don't know where that would be coming from. I might be on multiple call-in audios. That might be the problem.
That probably is the problem, because that would explain why we can't hear you well and why we can hear all the background noise.
Okay, let me see if I can hang up on the audio and just do audio through the app. Just
Okay,
1
thank
second.
you. Thank you.
Can I ask, is 819, is that your phone number?
Were you asking me?
I was just asking if the phone number ending in 819 was yours.
No, it's not. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. It is.
Okay.
I think part of the background noise that I'm hearing is in Mr. Mason's office. So Mr. Mason, you'll need to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Thank you. Okay, let's continue, Ms. Tanner.
Yes, Your Honor, and I apologize. Mr. Calloway, Miss Milan was living in California, correct?
Yes.
Then she moved back to Texas in 2021. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so.
Where did she move in Texas at that time?
She moved back to her mom's at, I believe it's 1717 Los Maples Loop, or 1818 Los Maples Loop,
What city?
Cedar Park, Texas.
And you were still living in Cedar Park at that time?
Yes.
How long? So starting in 2021, she was back in Cedar Park, correct?
Yes.
How long was she in Cedar Park at that time?
It was until her current husband, Ashton, moved back from California. I believe it was 6 months to a year. It was 6 months to a year, somewhere in there.
And where did she move next?
To Fayetteville from there.
How did you find out she moved to Fayetteville? Did she tell you? Did you have a conversation about it?
Yeah, she told me. So basically, I was told that they were going to stay in Austin, and then out of the blue, about 2 weeks after that, she told me that they were moving to Fayetteville. After that happened, it was pretty brief time they were in Fayetteville, and then they moved again to Belleville.
And when you found out she was moving to Fayetteville, did you agree to that move or did you express concern?
No, I expressed concern. I immediately hired you.
And at that point, did we immediately file in Travis County for his geographic area to be restricted to Travis and contiguous counties?
Yes.
You also heard Mr. Mason say that there was months that there was a month that she wasn't served. Do you remember that period?
Yes, I do. And I remember sending a process server out. I think it was to the tune of 5 times before she accepted the papers.
And do you remember why she wasn't served?
Yeah, she wouldn't open the door. She was calling me mad, texting me, asking if I was sending a process server and why they were there. Yeah, she wouldn't accept the papers.
And at that time, was she living in Fayetteville?
Yes.
How did you find her address in Fayetteville?
I think it was through the internet.
Did she provide you her address?
No, I don't believe so.
So was there also a delay in getting her served because you didn't have an address for her?
Yes.
with regards to up until the time we had a hearing with Judge Burgess, was there ever a possession schedule in place for Carson to be with you or Ms. Milan?
No, not an official possession schedule.
Had you
We
come
were
up,
just maintaining 50-50 custody.
and did you always maintain that once she came back from California?
Yes.
When she moved to Fayetteville, were you concerned about how that was going to work?
Yes.
And until we went to court, did she continue the 50-50 possession schedule?
I believe so.
When did you find out about her next move?
Pretty much right when it happened. She told me that they found a house in Belleville and that they were moving.
And did you have concerns at that time?
Yes.
What were your concerns?
My concerns were how we were going to maintain 50-50 custody if his school's 2.5-hour drive.
Did you also have concerns that she had moved 4 times in a short period?
Yes.
And I want to talk a little bit about where you live. What elementary school are you zoned to?
So we're zoned for West Side Elementary,
And what school district is that in?
Leander ISD.
What school would Carson go to if he was to live with you primarily?
He would go to West Side Elementary.
And have you looked at how that's rated or how it compares to the schools in Belleville?
Yes, I have. Significantly higher.
And if he is living with Miss Milan primarily, he would go to school in Belleville, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
Yes, at O'Brien Primary.
And have you looked into how that school is rated?
Yes, very low.
And do you believe that him going to school in Leander ISD is the best option for him academically?
100% I do.
Why?
Much better schools. There's a lot more opportunity, and a lot more, just a lot better schools all around. I mean, a lot more. For instance, in Belleville, I was reading that less than 1% of students with any learning disabilities needs get met. At West Side, it was over 90%.
And does Carson have any learning disabilities?
Not that we know of.
How would you describe your relationship with Carson?
Wonderful. We have a blast together. I learned from him every day. We're best friends.
And I am going to show you Exhibit 4 that we've prepared, which are some some pictures of, sorry, Petitioners 3. Can you tell me who it is in these pictures?
That is myself and Carson.
And throughout this entire exhibit, I understand there's a lot of pictures. Are these all pictures of you and Carson?
Yes.
And who is the other person in this picture?
Wife.
And his shirt, it says promoted to Big Brother, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How is Carson as a big brother?
He's a great big brother. He's very kind and very caring, extremely helpful.
Where is this picture taken?
We took that in Port Aransas.
Do you take a lot of trips with Carson and the other 2 children?
Yes, we do. We take him skiing every year. We take him to the beach every summer.
And in the interest of
we
time,
do a lot of RV trips in between.
in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but is it fair to say that all of these included in Exhibit 3 are pictures of you and Carson and things that y'all have done together?
Yes.
And are these true and accurate reflections of the pictures that you've provided to my office?
Yes.
What is this picture of? Oh,
That is a picture of a wedding we attended.
Do you remember?
Carson was the ring bearer.
Okay. And at this time, Your Honor, I move to admit Petitioner's Exhibit 3.
Any objection? Mr. Mason, just remember to unmute your microphone for me. Mr. Mason?
There you go. My apologies, Your Honor. The icon was a lot smaller. I have no objection, Judge.
And remind me of the exhibit number, Ms. Tanner.
3, Your Honor.
Petitioners 3 is admitted. Thank you.
And Mr. Calloway, I'm also going to show you, while I have Ms. Mahastri working on our exhibits, Petitioner's Exhibit 4. What is this a picture of?
Carson's bedroom.
And is this at your current house you live at in Cedar Park?
Yes, his room's changed a little bit in the last month or two since I sent that, but yeah, that's his bedroom.
And does it still have the same bed, the same furniture?
Yeah, he does.
And
We've added.
does this whole set of pictures include what his bedroom looks like?
Yes.
And Ms. Mahastri, if you can just continue to scroll through these. And does he have his own bedroom?
Yes, he does.
And
All of our kids have their own room.
Is this a true and accurate reflection of the photos?
Yes.
And we also move to admit Petitioner's Exhibit 4.
Any objection to P4?
No, Your Honor.
P4 is admitted.
Mr. Calloway, you stated that you've lived in Cedar Park your whole life. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if you could stop screen sharing. Who do you have in the Cedar Park area that's a support system for you and Carson?
A lot of people. My entire family, my wife's entire family, and most of Miss Malin's entire family is here. Regularly, he sees 40 to 60 family members every time we have him. We all get together and have a big barbecue and hang out.
And do you believe that he has that same support system in the Belleville area?
I do not.
Why is it important that he has a support system like that?
Just, grow. I'm sorry. Got tongue tied. It's important for anyone to have a big support system. We all need people.
And if you were, for some reason, to be running late or one of your other children were to be sick, do you have somebody that can help transport Carson?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Multiple people.
Who is Carson's primary doctor?
We take him to Cedar Park Pediatric Center.
And I want to talk a little bit about the school. I'm going to the school issues that have happened. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Petitioner's Exhibit 7. Let me ask you a question first. How did you find out that Carson had been enrolled in kindergarten?
I got a phone call from a mutual friend of myself and Miss Malin. And he told me that she posted a post on Facebook about his first day of school.
And
I was never informed.
And this was after our hearing with Judge Burgess, is that correct?
Yes.
And that order states that you're to make all educational decisions jointly, is that correct?
Yes.
And Petitioner's Exhibit 7 that you can see on the screen, is this a true and accurate reflection of Ms. Parker's Facebook post?
Yes.
And what does it say?
It says it's our boy's first day of school with Marissa Parker.
And is this how you found out that he was going to school?
Yes. Yeah, I got a phone call. I'm blocked from seeing that on Facebook. I got a phone call from somebody else explaining to me the post.
Did Ms. Parker call you and discuss at all enrolling him in school?
No, it was from a mutual friend.
And is this a true and accurate picture of that Facebook post, or has it been altered in any
Yes.
way?
No, it's not altered in any way.
Your Honor, we move to Petitioner's Exhibit 7.
Any objection to P7?
No, Your Honor.
P7 is admitted.
And what did you do, Mr. Calloway, as soon as you found out about Carson being enrolled in school?
I immediately called the school. They wouldn't tell me if he was enrolled there or not. So I got in my car. I went in, filled out some paperwork. Finally, they told me he was enrolled. At which point we filed for him to be withdrawn.
And I'm going to show you now what's been marked as Petitioner Exhibit 8. Is this a text exchange that you had between Ms. Parker on that day?
Yes.
And in this, you say, did you enroll Carson? And what is her
Yes.
response?
She says, yes, I was advised by my attorney to enroll him.
And you continue to say you couldn't run it by me. It was in the court order and neither of us could enroll him, correct?
Yes.
And then she says we don't have orders right now. Was that correct?
Yes.
Did we have did you have
Yes.
court orders in place at that time?
Yes, we did have court orders, and I was following the court orders. I thought we were both supposed to.
And this time, Your Honor, I moved him at Petitioner's Exhibit 8.
Any objection to P8?
No, Your Honor.
P8 is admitted.
And this may be a silly question, Mr. Calloway, but what is your concern about Miss Parker not following the court orders?
I mean, it just shows a complete lack of respect for the child's best interest. It just shows that she wants to do what she wants to do, you know, and the process doesn't matter. You know, when I've been following the process the whole time, and she just gets to move whenever she wants and enroll in whatever school she wants, like she's the primary parent, you know, it makes me feel like I have no say.
So since she left the Cedar Park area, she has moved without talking to you about it at least twice. And she
Yes.
has also enrolled him in school against the court orders. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you concerned that there will be a continued disregard for court orders?
Of course.
And you are asking for the exclusive right to enroll him in school. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Mastery, if you could stop screen sharing. Thank you. You're asking for the exclusive right to enroll him in school. Is that correct?
Yes.
With regards to a possession schedule going forward, it's not reasonable that either of you would have a 50-50 schedule with a 2.5-hour distance. Is that your belief?
Yes, that's my belief.
And if Carson were to live primarily with you, what schedule do you believe Miss Milan should have?
I mean, we could work out every other weekend, every weekend, every third weekend. You know, I'm open to anything. I'm not trying to keep the boy from his mom. You know, I'd love for him to spend as much time with her as possible. I just think it's unreasonable to, you know, to maintain 50-50 custody. We'd be driving 5 hours a day round trip to get him to and from school if he went to school in Belleville.
And with regards to Carson, does he have any health issues?
No.
And what concerns do you have if he were to go to the school zone to Miss Parker's residence?
I mean, I just feel like his needs wouldn't get met. You know, I'd much rather him go to a better school with more opportunities.
And do you have concerns about a lack of consistency and stability on Miss Parker's end?
Yes.
In preparation for today's hearing, did you prepare a proposed disposition of issues?
I believe so. I didn't today or last night. I did before the last hearing, I believe.
Did we prepare a list of your requests for this court?
Yes. Yes, we did.
And we're going to pull up what's been marked as your proposed disposition of issues, and this is petitioner's number 10. Are you asking that the court name you and Miss Milan, or now Miss Parker, as joint managing conservators?
Yes.
And are you asking that you be awarded the exclusive right to designate the primary residence of the child?
Yes.
Are you asking for that to be restricted to the Travis County area?
Yeah, Travis and the continual counties.
And are you asking that you be awarded the exclusive right to make educational decisions regarding enrolling the child in school after notifying Miss Parker,
Yes.
or that you be ordered to enroll him in the public school based on your address.
Yes.
And are you asking that Miss Parker be awarded a possession and access schedule for over 100 miles under the Texas Family Code?
Yes.
And I apologize, my dog found a squirrel, but I will get through this very quickly. Are you asking for Miss Parker to be ordered to pay guideline child support at this time?
Yes.
And are you asking for the exchanges to continue to take place at the Elgin HEB?
Yes.
With regards to health insurance, who is able to cover him on health insurance?
Either or. So the only reason that I haven't gotten health insurance for him is just because she offered to provide it. I have no problem at all providing health insurance for him.
And are you willing to split the cost of that?
100%.
And are you asking at this time for the court to admit Petitioner's Exhibit 10 as your proposed disposition of issues?
Yes.
I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Callaway, a question I wanted to ask you, I have several actually, is when you tried to contact my client on Facebook, had you friended her at any point? She never really blocked you, did she?
On Facebook. I never tried to contact her on Facebook.
Okay, but so you can't say that she blocked you then, can you?
Oh, whenever I looked up her name, I couldn't see her page. So yeah, I would assume that she blocked me.
Okay, so you just assumed that, but you didn't know for sure.
I guess you could say that.
All right, and you would admit that you didn't express any major disagreement. I mean, you left a voicemail message, we'll put into evidence later, that you were pretty commendable of my client when she moved to California after what had happened, correct?
That was satire. I did not mean that genuinely.
Okay.
I was in a
Did you also tell Judge Burgess when he asked you about health insurance, if you could provide, you said, I'd rather not?
I don't believe I did. I have no problem providing health insurance.
Okay, well, maybe you changed your mind. I don't know. But anyway, it's not important now. However, you're aware that my client has provided health insurance through her job, and her husband now has provided another policy, and you haven't done anything to obtain health insurance. Yes or no?
We were mutual agree. We were
yes or no. Yet objection non-responsive. Yes or no. Have you taken any steps yourself to provide health insurance?
Yes, I have. I've looked into health insurance 100%.
Okay. And I want to ask you something also. It was in October and November of 2021. Did you call my client up and pretty much state that you weren't able to handle being a father anymore?
Yes, and if I could explain,
that's
what
all
happened
I
was
asked.
My daughter had just died.
Okay,
that's dirty. That's
objection asked and answered.
Okay, so both of you, I need you to try to follow the court's instructions as follows. I can't hear when both of you are talking at the same time. And so, Mr. Mason, if you have an objection, just make it clearly, and Mr. Callaway, stop if you hear an objection, okay?
Yes,
so that I can rule on that objection. Don't try to talk over Mr. Mason, all right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, before we get too far, Ms. Tanner, you had discussed an exhibit, Petitioner 10, but just for the record, before we go further, you didn't offer that. Did you want to offer that?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you for catching that. I apologize.
Okay, P10, Ms. Foley, of course, caught that. Ms. P10 is admitted for the purpose for which it's offered. It's just the proposed disposition of issues. And unless you have an objection, Mr. Mason, I'll admit that.
Proceed, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. P10 is admitted. You may proceed.
Okay. Mr. Hunter, or Mr. Callaway, did my client ever call you up and say she couldn't be a mother anymore?
No.
Okay. All right. And how many, another question I have about your employment. You said you're in business for yourself, correct?
Yes,
Is it a sole proprietorship or is it incorporated?
it's an LLC.
Okay. And have you filed a tax return in the last 3 years?
No,
You don't have a 1099 W-2 form of any sort?
no.
Okay. And how many times have you taken Karsten to the dentist?
To the dentist?
Yes.
Never.
How many times in the last year, say 2 years, have you taken him to the doctor?
10 times probably.
When was the last one?
The last one, about 4 weeks ago.
Okay, but you can't give me the date.
I don't have the date off the top of my head, no.
Okay, and at the time, when did you first meet my client and her now husband? Was it what, December 2021, somewhere in there? Hello?
When I first met your client?
No. When you first met my client and her now husband, you guys went out to drinks, I think, December 2021. He was on leave from the Army.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm assuming he told you where he lived, gave you an idea of what their plans were for the future.
Maybe.
Okay, so you knew his family lived in Fayetteville, Texas, right?
No, I did not.
Okay, and so you also are aware of the fact that you did not file this until April 5th of 2022, correct?
What?
Filed the petition and the suit affecting the parent-child relationship.
Okay.
Okay, and I noticed in the request for issuance of citation that Ms. Tanner didn't even request citation until April 21st of 2022. That sound about right? It's in the court record.
Okay.
Your Honor, I would like the court to take judicial notice of the court pleadings, please.
The court will take judicial notice of the complete file.
Okay, and you're aware that she had been in Fayetteville since sometime around the end of March of 2022, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so you obviously had an address.
No, I did not. I had to dig for it.
Okay, well, you knew that she had lived outside the restricted area. She's well outside Travis and contiguous counties at that point, correct?
Yes, but what was I supposed to do about that?
Okay, and also that you didn't get her served until May the 5th, I believe.
Yes, but how can I make her grab papers?
Yes or no, she was not served until May the 5th,
Yes.
approximately.
Yes, she's not served.
Objection, non-responsive. Objection, I asked for a yes or no answer, Your Honor.
You got a yes.
Okay, excuse me. I'm going to ask both of you, the cross-examination needs to be respectful. You're welcome to object as needed, Mr. Mason, but I just ask that you are respectful to Mr. Calloway. And Mr. Calloway, I'm going to ask you again to follow my instruction. If you hear an objection, pause, and there's no arguing between the two of you, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm
Do
sorry.
your best to try to answer the question asked and only the question asked. Your attorney's going to have an opportunity to follow up, and you can explain some of your answers if she believes it's necessary at that time, okay? Don't try to explain away, just answer the question, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mason, you may proceed.
Okay, and do you recall that Judge Burgess made the ruling that your motion to enforce was not, quote, well brought?
Objection. I believe that the best evidence here would be a transcript, and it also calls for a legal conclusion.
Sustain.
Okay, and you're aware that your attorney did not file the motion to enforce until July 1st, I believe, 2022.
What was that?
You're aware that your attorney did not file the motion to enforce until July of 2022.
Objection, Your
Yeah.
Honor, calls for a legal conclusion.
Overruled, if he can answer if he knows.
I don't know for certain, but it sounds about right.
Okay, between December of 2019 and June of 2021, when my client was in California, how many times did you visit your son in California? Hello? Mr. Calloway?
Looks like he's frozen. Just a second.
A few. I believe 4. Oh, can you guys hear me?
No, you'll have to say that again, please.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I believe 4 times. Well, 3. I went out there once. I was denied. I was denied the opportunity to see my son.
Okay, and was it true at that time you didn't have a driver's license to get onto the base?
No.
So you didn't, it's not a fact that you did not have a valid driver's license at that point?
I don't believe so, no. Pretty sure I rented a car while we were there.
How many car wrecks have you been in the last, say, 3 or 4 years? Say that's 4 years.
Objection, relevance.
Objection goes to responsibility and safety, Your Honor.
Overruled. You can answer. Mr. Calloway, if you answered, we didn't hear it. Will you respond to the question? The number of.
I'm sorry, I keep losing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you ask the question again?
Sure. How many car wrecks have you been in the last 4 years?
In the last 4 years? 3.
Okay, and were you fired from a job because, in large part, you were in a car wreck, in a company car, I believe, or truck?
Yeah.
Okay, now do you think that is indicative of a high level of responsibility?
What was that?
Do you think that indicates a high level of responsibility on your part
Isn't that irrelevant?
with regards to your car wrecks and being fired from your job?
No, I don't.
You think that's normal? 3 wrecks in 4 years?
I got rear-ended. So I mean, yeah, it happens.
Okay, well, would you agree also that there was an incident where you were driving on an interstate or a highway, I believe it was October 2022 approximately, when you were driving a car, it looks like at a high rate of speed, and you were handling a handgun?
No.
So
I don't recall.
you deny that this video exists?
Yeah, I don't recall that.
Okay. But were you driving at a any rate of speed on a highway or interstate in any state of the country handling a pistol?
I don't recall, no.
You're aware that we do have a videotape of that, and it's on our exhibit list.
Okay.
All right. And this was after the litigation had started. As a matter of fact, I think it was just before we had the hearing in front of Judge Burgess.
Okay.
Now, do you think that is a really good thing to be doing, especially when you're in the middle?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, then why did you do it?
I don't recall. I don't recall doing it.
Oh, yeah. And you said you have a flexible schedule, right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming you weren't. Well, why weren't you at his preschool graduation in May of 2023?
Objection, Your Honor, assumes facts not in evidence.
Sustained. You'll need to lay a predicate question.
Yes, I'll rephrase. Were you at your son's preschool graduation in May of 2023?
No, sir.
And explain that to me.
I wasn't
Why?
there. I was working.
But I thought you said your schedule was flexible.
It is.
Okay, and also, wasn't there a, well, let me review my notes here. I think I'm maybe about finished on cross. Oh, yeah. Have you ever made a statement to my client about issues regarding Carson? I believe they're related to school or some events you were going to, did you specifically tell my client that, talk to my wife, that is her job right now?
I don't believe so.
Okay, would you agree though that your son is with his stepmother a lot more than he is with you when you have your week on
On the
possession
weeks that I'm
time?
working, on the weeks that I'm working, yes.
Okay. And you're aware that my client has tailored her work schedule where it almost exactly coincides with Hunter's, correct?
No, not aware.
Okay, she hadn't told you this? Let's think about this. She gets off work at about 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, no, what
and
you're saying makes sense. I see it.
okay, but you said you didn't know.
I didn't
And
know that
so-
she specifically tailored her work schedule around his schedule. No, I just figured whenever you work in the school, those are the hours you probably work.
Your wife's name is Gabby, correct?
Her name is Eva Gabrielle. Yes, she goes by
Okay.
Gab.
And I believe her mom, has she seen Carson crying when he has to leave his mother?
I don't know. But for the record, he cries when both ways. When he has to go either place, he gets attached to wherever he's at currently. So, yeah, yes, that has happened. He's also cried because he didn't want to leave our house.
Okay, and have you and or your wife, have you ever left Carson with no adult supervision with his younger brothers? I'm talking about you've never left them
No,
unsupervised.
no.
Okay, and again, just to make sure I'm not missing anything, this is my last question. You are not aware whether you accepted my client's friend request on Facebook or not, or are you?
No, not aware.
You didn't bother to look at the friend request? I'm 64 years old and a
Objection, Your
tech
Honor,
dinosaur, and I know
answer.
that. Didn't you bother to check the friend request?
No.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. The time is 10:21 and we need to take a morning break probably in the next 10 minutes. Do you have a short witness next, Ms. Tanner, or?
Your Honor, I have just a few follow-ups for my
Okay.
client. It can take
All
less
right,
than-
let's do the redirect and then we'll take our morning recess for 15 minutes. Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
Mr. Calloway, you heard in Mr. Mason's opening statement that Miss Parker has been the primary caregiver of Hunter, correct?
Yes.
Do you agree with that statement?
No.
And you also heard him state that it would be a travesty to make you primary.
Yes, I did.
Do you agree with that?
No, not at all.
Why not?
He has a good home. He has a good support system. He has really good schools here. I just don't see how being anywhere else could be better for him.
And do you believe you provide him more stability than Miss Parker has in the past 4 years?
Yes. Yes.
And there was more questions about that you filed on April 5th, the petition and the enforcement, correct?
Yes.
Did you file as soon as you found out?
As soon as I found out, I called you.
And was there a delay in requesting the citation because you didn't have an address for her?
Yes.
So there wasn't a delay because you didn't care about where Carson was. It was merely because you didn't know where to serve her. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you also were asked a question about a call in 2021 when you stated that you couldn't be a father anymore.
Yes.
What was, and I don't want to go too far into that, but what
I did not state that I didn't want to be, or I couldn't be a father anymore.
what do you remember saying?
So I called and I said, I need you to pick Carson up early. Our daughter had just died and my wife and I were going through a really hard time. And I couldn't, typically when things like that happen, you'll call the grandparents. Hey, can you come watch the kid? I need to decompress. That's all that was. I didn't say I don't want to be a father anymore. What it was My daughter had just died, and I was having a really hard time dealing with it.
And did you ask her for help that one time?
Yes,
Is that the only time you've ever reached out to her for help?
yes,
Is Carson involved in extracurriculars in Cedar Park?
yes, he is.
What is he involved in?
He's in karate and gymnastics, and soon he'll be starting soccer, hopefully.
And how often does he go to those events?
Multiple times a week.
And so he goes on your weeks and he misses them on the weeks he's with his mother?
Yes.
If he was to be with you primarily, would he be going to those activities on a weekly basis?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
does he
it'd actually be a daily basis. He goes to karate just about every day we have him.
where does he go to karate?
He goes to karate in Leander. It's called Martial Athletes.
And is that like an after school program? Is it?
No, no, it's just a karate class we enrolled him in.
And is there anything else that you think the court needs to hear regarding your request for today?
No, ma'am.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Mason, any final questions?
Nothing further, Judge.
Okay, very good. The time is 10:25. We're gonna break until 10:40. And you should join the breakout room. If you were previously put into a breakout room, you could go there. Otherwise, make sure that your cameras and your microphones are off during the break. And be back in our courtroom, our virtual courtroom at 10:40. Thank you. Court's in recess until 10:40.
Your Honor, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I cannot see you.
Yes, Your Honor, I've tried to say start video here and it gives me an indicator you cannot start your video because the host, okay, just asked I start my video. Thanks, Judge.
Oh, okay, super. Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Tanner, you may call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Mastery is going to call Miss Marissa Parker.
Okay, Ms. Parker. All right, same rule for you. Your husband is there with you, but there we go. I see you following the court's instruction. Just make sure you don't have any assistance in answering the questions throughout your testimony. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Let's see, Ms. Mahasri, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed. Thank you.
Good afternoon or morning. Please state your name for the record.
Marissa Parker.
And how many times have you moved in the past 5 years?
To California, back. I moved 4 times.
Okay. And when did you move to California?
It was around the new year of 2019 or of the new year of 2020.
Okay. And why did you move?
There was a bunch of incidences with Hunter. He has had a problem with drinking. There was instance that I was not able to get a hold of him on his time with Carson, and found Carson pretty much being neglected. And Hunter passed out in bed naked with women. There was just a lot of inconsistency with his parenting. He was more focused on partying and living a fast life than being a functional parent.
And who did you live with in California?
My brother and sister-in-law, or my sister and brother-in-law, sorry.
And why did you move back to Texas?
Because Hunter started to get his life together. He had met Gabby a few months prior, and my entire family had met Gabby. And Carson had met Gabby, and everything was just going really well. I was not kicked out of my sister and brother-in-law's house. I left willingly. They offered to let me stay longer just in case everything did fall through with coming back and it wasn't as happy as it seemed to be and as good timing. Yes.
And was that incident that you just spoke about briefly 5 years ago?
Yes, it was in 2019. That one was in November of 2019.
So for the last few years, has Hunter been stable and you guys have been co-parenting really well together for Carson?
I really wouldn't say stable. Up until his second son was born, yes, I would say that he's gotten it more together. I would say Gabby is the more of the stability in the life and the family household, from just my perspective of everything.
Okay, but you and Hunter have been doing 50-50 for over 2 years
Yes,
now.
yes.
Okay. And where are you employed?
Belleville ISD.
And how are you paid?
I get paid monthly on the 15th.
Okay, and what is your income?
Since changing to my husband's insurance, I make over $1,200 a month. But our household, we bring in about $6,500 a month.
Okay. And kind of going back to when you were served in 2022, how many times did you ignore the process server or refuse to answer the door?
Never. My brother was home one time at my mom's house after I had moved. He let me know and my mom that somebody came looking for me. And I immediately called Mr. Calloway with my mother, and he denied that he was having me served. I tried to figure this all out. And then one showed up to my mother-in-law's house whenever we were staying there for the in-between of looking for a home in Belleville. And I was not there at the time. And I called the process server. I got his card and I called him back. And he came the next day to bring me my papers and so that I could know what was going on. And that's whenever I received them. And that was on May 5th of 2022.
And what was the reason for you to move to Fayetteville or from Fayetteville to Belleville?
Well, my husband, he had a job lined up before he even got out of the military. He came home and he was working about a week and a half after he got back from California. His job is in Allington, which is
Sorry,
in between.
ma'am. Ms. Parker, you're cutting out.
Right.
I'm sorry. Can you start your answer over again? You cut
Yes,
out.
ma'am.
Is that just on my end, Judge, or are you?
No, Ms. Parker,
I-
we're having audio issues.
Yes, one second. Let me see. Okay, does it sound better?
So far, yes, sounds better.
Okay. And the question was why we chose Belleville, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
So my husband, he was offered a job before he was out of the military, and he started it about a week and a half after he got back into Texas from California. And it's really central between Fayetteville and Belleville. And in the time, there wasn't anything for rent in the Fayetteville area. And so I checked out Belleville and kind of, it's very close to his work pretty much is why we chose Belleville.
So these moves were based on
Employment.
on your husband's employment, not what was in the best interest for Carson.
No, it's definitely the best interest of our family as well. This town, it's amazing for families, and we have a really good support system out here with my in-laws. And my mother and father are actually both planning to move out here within the next 6 months. And that's the only family that I do have residing in Cedar Park.
Okay. You don't have your grandparents or no other family members in Cedar
No,
Park?
ma'am. They live in the San Antonio area.
Okay, and what about Carson's doctors or dentists? Where are they?
His dentists are actually out here. I let Hunter know whenever I was changing him to our insurance out here that I would be finding a provider out here, but he could continue to use the one in Cedar Park as well. So he has been seeing 2 different pediatricians this entire time.
Okay. And do you have a temporary order currently in place?
Yes, ma'am. We signed them the day of mediation that were supposed to be signed back in October of 2022 when we had our first initial temporary orders hearing. We did not receive them until the day of mediation in August of this year.
Okay. And did that order state that you had the exclusive right to make educational decisions?
No, ma'am, but Hunter and I both did let each other know through mediation that we both had him enrolled in school prior to signing those papers.
Mr.
Objection
Mr.
not,
Calloway, make sure to keep your, I need your video on,
Yeah,
and your microphone off.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I thought it was muted.
so there was no order in place. So just to clarify, there was no order in place that stated that you had the exclusive right to make educational decisions.
No, ma'am.
Okay, and yet you still enrolled Carson without Mr. Calloway's agreement into Belleville O'Brien Primary.
From my understanding, he was enrolled in there too, but yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you have any discussions with Mr. Calloway prior to the enrollment?
No.
Okay. So you violated the court order and you didn't really care about that?
No, I did care about it. It was that, and from my understanding, that he was having him enrolled in school
Objection
as
to such
well.
facts not in evidence. She never was found to be violation of a court order.
Sustained.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry, I'm pulling up a exhibit. 1 second. It's the temper. Is this the temporary orders that you signed?
Yes, this past August is the last ones that we signed. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you recognize this document?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to admit P2 into evidence.
The court has taken judicial notice of the complete file, but if you want to use that as an exhibit, that's okay with me unless there's an objection by Mr. Mason.
Objection.
P2 is admitted.
Okay, and on page 2 of the temporary orders, does it say that as joint managing conservators, you both need to consult, you both need to confer with the other parent before making a decision regarding the education of the child?
Yes, ma'am, but like I said, we both had the understanding for mediation. The only difference was on his end that he claimed to have him enrolled in a private and a public school.
Would you agree that a majority of Carson's support system is in Cedar Park right now in the present moment?
Yes, right now, definitely. But my parents are always at our house as well, so it's I wouldn't say that he's missing out because that's really the only side of my family that is there.
Okay. And have you compared elementary schools in Belleville to the ones in Leander ISD?
Yes, so from my understanding, I thought Fabian was the school that they were zoned for. I actually compared on the Texas board scorings, and that school was only a 10 score difference. And over here, our schools actually do progress, get higher as he would move up to middle school, high school.
Okay.
And we also have a variety of private schools that are very well renounced and very highly spoken of.
Okay. And you've looked at O'Brien Primary, the rating for that school as
Yes,
well?
ma'am. They're scored at a 65%.
Okay, so do you recognize this website, texasschools.gov for O'Brien Primary?
Not this one personally, no.
Okay. So it shows that it was
This is the one that I did see, the 65 out of 100.
okay. So it shows, is it accurate to say that it has a C rating as
Yes,
of 2018 to 2019 is not rated currently?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think it only doesn't get rated though if it's under 70 out of 100.
Okay. Which means that it might not be as a good school as a Leander ISD school.
Well, there is a lot more options over there for schooling as there is here. I think it's more of a competitive area for the schooling over there. Here, there is only one public primary school. And it is a very much smaller community in town. So I think that that plays a really big part in the ratings of each school.
Okay. I would like to admit P5 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
P5 is admitted.
And when you enrolled Carson into the Belleville ISD school in O'Brien before removing him from there, did you list Mr. Calloway as a parent or emergency contact?
I'm pretty positive that I did. If I did not, it's because he is 2.5 hours away. I would reach out to him the second that I did find anything out. But I figured my husband and I, we are closer, and my mother-in-law to be there in any emergency instance.
Okay. And no further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Your Honor, I'd like to save her testimony of the part I want to put on for my case in chief, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. I want to make sure everybody is aware. I need to go into a judge's meeting at noon. As I previously mentioned, we had a building emergency with the flooding, and so I have to attend an emergency meeting at noon. So we'll have to get wrapped up to the best of our ability in the next hour. With that in mind, Ms. Tanner, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will call Holly Unger, and our next ones will be pretty quick. We'll be very quick.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Ms. Unger, let's get your video on, please. Thank you very much. Okay, if you would please raise your right hand to be sworn. State your name for the record.
Holly Unger.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Tanner, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please state your name for the record?
Holly Unger.
And how are you related to the parties in this case?
I am Gabby's aunt.
And that is Hunter's wife,
Hunter's
correct?
wife, yes.
Where do you live?
I live in Georgetown.
And are you able to see Hunter and Gabby on a regular basis?
All the time. Yeah, probably a few times a week, every Sunday.
And how often do you see them with their children and with Carson?
Well, I see Carson generally every time he's with Gabby and Hunter, and the other, well, the baby, not as often, but Hunter, the middle, all the time. I'd say a few times a week.
And how would you describe Hunter's relationship with Carson from what you've seen?
I think Hunter and Carson have a perfect relationship. I admire Hunter a lot, and I think he's a good dad. Anytime he leaves my house with the boys or Gabby, I have zero concerns. I trust him.
And because the court only gets to see a very limited picture of the parties in this case, how would you kind of describe Hunter's personality and Hunter as a father?
Well, I think Hunter, when we first met Hunter, I think a lot of things, are coming up about Hunter. And so Gabby she's like a daughter to my husband and myself. With any boy, man coming in, we were nervous. Once we got to know him, we love Hunter dearly. We think like I said, I think he's a good father.
And how long have you known Hunter?
I met Hunter at my daughter's wedding, which was I don't remember. It was maybe 3-4 years. It was while they were dating.
And have you ever had concerns about Hunter with Carson or any of the children?
No,
Have you had concerns about Hunter being under the influence or on drugs or alcohol or anything concerning?
no.
And with regards to Carson, how would you describe Carson's personality?
Carson is, he's amazing. He's smart and funny and adorable. And he is really smart for a 5-year-old. He can kind of talk you in and out of anything, but we love Carson dearly.
How does he seem bonded with Gabby?
He loves Gabby. I think, you know, like they were saying earlier, he spends a lot of time with Gabby because she's a stay-at-home mom. And I think Gabby is an outstanding stepmom. I don't really see a difference in the way she treats Carson than Hunter and Colt. I think they have a good relationship.
And when you see Hunter with Carson, does Carson seem bonded with his father?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have nothing further, Your Honor, for this witness.
Cross-examination?
I just wondered to one quick question, Your Honor. Ms. Unger, I wanted to ask you one question. Have you ever heard anybody like Mr. Calloway or Gabby or anybody in close proximity to Carson, questioning my client's abilities and love as a mother of her child and the way she's raised them, been partially responsible for raising them?
No, I think the only thing that any concern that I've heard is that, you know, they firmly believe that Carson needs his dad and mom. I think the move was jolting. It was hard and scary. I think up until that point, they were very happy with the 50-50 and would have continued that forever. So no, I haven't heard any negative things about her as far as her being a mom, other than the move and the effects that had.
Other than why we're here, type deal. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll pass the witness. No further questions, Your Honor. Your Honor, I know this is a little bit of an aside, but I have a little bit of a concern. I uploaded my exhibits on Michelle Williamson's to her, through her as a reporter for the court. And I wanted to make sure your court reporter, Ms. Foley, and the court has my exhibits up here, because I just got the email from Ms. Foley after the hearing had already started about 9:12, 9:15.
I'm not sure why they were sent to, oh, you were originally assigned to Judge Swiper, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, gotcha. I don't know the answer. I'll let Ms. Foley answer that question for you.
I see 21 exhibits in the respondent's folder.
Thank you. Actually, there are 23, but 2 of them are witness list and exhibit list. One's an admitted one. Thank you. You do have it. I just wanted to make sure, Your Honor, given the circumstances of what happened.
Okay, certainly, and you may proceed.
I'll call Deanna Hayes.
Okay.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
very good. Mr. Mason passed the witness, and that means that she may be excused. Ms. Unger, you're welcome to log out if you wish. You can also stay in the courtroom if you wish. It's up to you. Can she hear me? Okay, Ms. Hayes, I cannot see you.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I see that your video is supposed to be on,
Yeah.
but we can't see you.
Okay, 1 second here. See if it'll go.
Ms.
It
Tanner,
says
do you have another witness while she's trying to sort out the video?
Yeah, it says co-host to stop your video. Let me see.
You might just have to log back in, Ms. Hayes.
Okay, I'll do that now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'll call Mr. Knight then.
Okay, let's see. Mr. Knight, can you hear us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Knight, but I can't see you. Can you turn your
Okay,
video
then I
on?
need to turn my video on there.
Yes. All right. There we go. Now we can see you.
Okay.
If you would, please raise your right hand and state your name for the record.
Charles M. Knight.
All right. And do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Are you able to move your hand so that we can see you? There we go. All right. Very good.
I didn't know I was going to be a witness.
Well, surprise. Are you
Surprise.
Are you available to stay in the courtroom?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Then Ms. Tanner, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please state your name for the record?
I'm Charles Michael Knight.
And how are you related to Hunter Calloway?
I'm Hunter's grandfather and Carson's great-grandfather
Where do you live?
in Georgetown.
And how often do you get to see Hunter and Carson?
Well, I see Hunter quite a bit. I see Carson whenever we have the ability to. Both of us are elderly, so we don't get out as much as we'd like, but we see them quite often. Anytime they have a family gathering, we're always there.
How would you describe Hunter as a father?
Hunter is probably amazes me sometimes because he's become a great father. He loves his son more than anybody else in them. A child should always be with his father. And as a family, they're very loving to that child and to all their kids. And he's become a great father.
And the rule was never invoked today, so you've been actually in here the whole hearing today. Is that correct?
Yes, I have.
And you heard Miss Parker's attorney state some previous concerns about Hunter in the past. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that Hunter has grown from the last 5 years?
Oh, absolutely. He's a different young man. He's very responsible. He started his own company. He's very successful in that company, and as employees, so he's doing well, very well. And he's grown. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
I just said he's grown quite a bit in the last 5 years.
So the Hunter that is here today in the courtroom that's been around for the past few years, would you say is a much more mature version of a Hunter than maybe in 2019, 2020?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's a man now. He's not a young man. He's a man. And all boys growing up obviously do things they're not always proud of. But Hunter's has really grown, and he is very responsible and loves that child so much and wants the best for him.
How would you describe Carson's personality?
Carson's a bubbly personality. He's never met a stranger. He can sit there and talk to you like he was a 15 or 16-year-old. He's just very responsible young child. I very seldom see him act up. He's getting to be in a different age than he was 2 years ago when he was just a little baby, I call him. But he's growing up too. Loving kid.
And do you have any concerns if Carson were to live primarily in Beville instead of in Cedar Park?
I guess we wouldn't get to see him. All of his kinfolk are here, in my opinion. I don't know about some of them moving to Belleville. I couldn't understand that, why they would uproot and move to Belleville when they don't. I don't understand that, and I've never heard that before. But all of his support group is here, and his grandmother would get to see him. Melissa's mother would get to see him quite often here. It just would make more sense.
Do you believe that Hunter and his wife are able to provide Carson with the stability that he needs?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And do you have any concerns about Hunter and Gabby's ability to take care of Carson?
No. concerns whatsoever.
Mhm.
You know, his son needs his father. There's too many kids growing up in this world that don't have fathers. And that's the one thing that I'm old school. I just think a son needs his father.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. I pass the witness.
Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Mason?
Yes, I have a few, Judge.
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Knight, you're aware of the fact that my client is not trying to keep Mr. Calloway from having a relationship with Carson, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay, and would you also agree that a child needs his mother just as much as the dad? It's equal?
I believe that a son needs his father probably more than he needs his mother. If it was a girl, I would think that the girl needs the mother more, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, and I know you're old school, older than I am. I get it. So, anyway, I'll move on. But has anybody from Mr. Calloway's side of the family, or Mr. Calloway himself, ever disparaged my client's role as a mother and her fulfillment of her job as a mother?
No.
Okay, and you all are aware that, you may not have been aware up until now. I don't know, and I'm asking that my client's husband has had a job since he got out of the U.S. Army that is a good job in Belleville. Were you aware of that?
I'm not aware of his jobs or what he does.
Okay, and you're also aware that his family was from Fayetteville, Texas as well, and still lives there.
Well, only through this conversation. And I knew that Hunter had mentioned that, but I'm not real familiar with him. I've never met him.
Okay, and also, I know you were talking about some of Mr. Calloway's prior history, and I get it, young men mess up. I mean, I'm not an exception to that either. I imagine you aren't either, but if there were events that were happening fairly recently, like within just barely over a year ago, regarding driving and handling guns at the same time, do you think that shows an acceptance of responsibility or a growing up, if you will?
I'm not sure what you're asking me.
Okay, if you know of somebody, as in Mr. Calloway, driving on an interstate or a highway, driving with a firearm, a handgun in his possession, in his hands at the same time, do you think that's a sign of responsibility?
I don't know anything about what you're talking about. I've never heard that story. I don't know anything about what you're talking about, so I'm not going to comment.
Okay, and you're also aware that my client does have a support network in Belleville, and part of her support network is moving to Belleville. Were you aware of that?
Only through today. I never would imagine why her mother would move to Belleville or grandparents would move to Belleville. That makes no sense. But I'm just going to have to leave it at that.
All right, Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
Anything else, Ms. Tanner?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Knight, thank you for your testimony. Certainly appreciated. You're excused as a witness and you are free to go. Ms. Unger, I
Thank
don't know
you.
if you heard me, but you're also free to go. Thank you.
I did. Thank you.
Okay, very good. And Ms. Tanner, you may call your next witness. Just please be thoughtful about allocating time fairly between the parties. We only have about 43 minutes remaining. So is there any other witnesses you want to call before you pass?
Just Ms. Hayes, Your Honor, if her camera works. If not, then I will rest.
Okay, Ms. Hayes, any luck getting your camera to work?
Well, I mean, I'm logged in and have it on, so I'm not understanding why it's not pulling up. It keeps telling me that the co-host has ended my video though, so I don't know who the co-host
Okay.
is.
Well, you log back in, right? And
Mm.
on this side, it says that your video is on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You have a completely black screen, so it looks like.
See, now it says host has stopped your video. So I mean, I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'll rest at this time.
Okay, all right. And Mr. Mason, you may call your first witness.
You're resting, Your Honor.
Ms. Tanner said her client rests.
Thanks, Your Honor. Your Honor, I would like to call my client to the stand.
All right, Ms. Parker, you're back on the witness stand. You're still sworn, as I gave you your admonishments and put you under oath during Ms. Tanner's case. So you just remember that. Mr. Mason, you may proceed.
Your Honor, since some of this, in the interest of brevity for the court, I'm going to move on to some of the questions. I'm going to skip some of the introduction part. She was asked about that on the examination by Ms. Mussery. So I will proceed. Ms. Parker, you and Mr. Parker live in Belleville, correct?
Yes.
And would you just reiterate why that came about, or how that came about?
Yes. So he was offered a job before he got out of the Army, before he moved back to Texas. He pretty much came back home, went and met his boss, and then started work about a week and a half later. He's still at that job and has been able to work his way up in the company as well. So it's been a very big blessing to our family to have found that.
Okay, and getting back to the service of the original petition, you mentioned, I think, that you were served on May the 5th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And you had moved to Fayetteville in late March. Can you remember the exact, I think you said March 29th?
Yes, sir. March 29th.
Okay, and so you and your husband, or your fiance at the time, first met to Mr. Calloway and his wife or fiance, I think in December 2021?
Yes, we had gone out for a couple of drinks with our my sister and my brother-in-law as well. And we definitely did talk about our move in that time.
Okay, and did you mention that your Mr. Ashton Parker's parents lived in the Fayetteville area?
Yes, yes, and he was well aware that they were in the Fayetteville-LaGrange area beforehand as well.
All right, and were you ever married to Mr. Calloway?
No, sir.
Okay, and did you all live together for some time?
Yes, from about the time that I was 18 until I was 21.
Okay, and why did you separate?
Well, he had a good job after Carson was born, and then he just kind of started to self-destruct, and he was heavily drinking all the time. He was never home. I would find out that he was doing drugs and hanging out with bad people. He lost his job from drinking and driving and crashing the work vehicle. He had totaled 2 of our family vehicles and let other people drive and total them. It just accumulated to where I did not want to live that way anymore. And I didn't want my son around that lifestyle, and moved back to my mom's house for the time being.
Okay, and when you did decide to separate, you moved in with your mother, with Carson, I believe?
Yes, I was a stay-at-home mom at the time as well. So I wasn't having any income at the time to get my own place.
Okay, and was there an incident in November of 2019 when you decided to leave for California?
Yes, it was actually the one that I was telling Miss Nisreen about. There was a good handful of incidences, one including Carson getting lice from a random woman using his hairbrush at Hunter's apartment. I would see Hunter's apartment scattered with paraphernalia and drugs, but the one incident in particular that I took custody away was the one where I could not get in contact with Hunter on one of his overnights and saw that he was out drinking and partying at bars. And I couldn't contact him. I couldn't get in touch with him. And so I finally decided to show up the next morning around, I think it was 11:30 noon. And I was let in by his roommate at the time to find Carson roaming the apartment by himself in a diaper, soiled completely down to his knees. Feet and knees were completely black. And I couldn't find Hunter, and then found him locked in his bedroom with the woman naked in bed, passed out.
Okay, and what was the condition of the apartment when you were there?
No, there were drugs, there was alcohol, there was paraphernalia, dishes piled in the sink. It was looked like a college house.
Okay, and you did talk to Mr. Hunter, I'm sorry, Mr. Calloway about moving to California?
Yes, it was multiple conversations, but that was definitely the straw that broke the camel's back and resulted in us leaving for sure.
Okay, and did he actually, I don't know if you were in California at the time or fixing to leave, but did he actually leave a voice recording regarding this matter?
Yes, that was actually in the same first month that we had moved to California.
Okay, Your Honor, I'd like to go to screen share. It's respondents number 17.
You may.
Thank you.
Objection.
What's the objection?
It not properly authenticated. Don't know when, where, if it's the full voicemail, how long, if it has been altered in any way.
Okay, just Mr. Mason, just make sure you lay the predicate for offering this exhibit.
Okay, Miss Parker, do you recognize his voice?
Yes, and it wasn't the only one that was left. There was multiple. It was a really emotional, abusive time with him, and he did it on multiple occasions. This isn't the only one.
Can we back up a little bit because I'm needing more information about the timing of all of this. When
This was
Excuse me.
January. Sorry,
Just a
sorry,
second,
Your Honor. Yeah.
when did you arrive to the apartment to find Carson unsupervised?
It was around noon in November of 2019.
Okay. And this recording took place in what?
It was January 22nd of 2020.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd like to play the exhibit if you don't mind. It's a video recording.
You may.
Can I renew my objection? It wasn't authenticated properly, and I still don't know the time frame or if it had been altered
Okay.
and how it's relevant.
Sustained. You'll need to lay additional foundation for this exhibit.
Hey, ma'am, do you recognize this as Mr. Calloway's voice?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us the month and year, preferably the date this was left on your voicemail?
Yes, January 22nd, 2020, and it was around 2 in the morning that it was left.
Okay,
I woke up the next morning to it.
and this is you do authenticate this, and you can verify that this is Mr. Hunter Calloway's voice.
Yes, and it is also him claiming about me taking care of his son.
Your Honor, I'd still like to proceed with playing the rest of this.
Okay, you still haven't addressed the issue of whether or not it's been altered in any way.
It's been authenticated, Your Honor?
Whether it's been altered in any way.
Oh, I'm sorry, and no, thanks, Judge, I appreciate it. And ma'am, you have not altered this, and you don't know of any other alteration that's taken place by anybody else, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, you may proceed.
Thanks, Your Honor.
I'm actually not seeing anything.
I'm not either or hearing anything.
Okay, Ms. Parker, you heard the difficulties we're having with the audio on the voicemail, but is it your testimony that he did leave a voicemail on your phone?
Yes.
Okay, and did he express, I mean, I know he was sad, but did he express any anger or hostility to you moving to California?
No, just pretty much it was just a lot of praise for being a good mother.
Okay. All right, and I'll move on, Your Honor. Okay, and when you were in California, you mentioned that you were living with your sister and brother-in-law, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and make sure the record's clear on that. You never had a falling out with them or anything?
No, my move back was completely willingly.
Okay. All right, and so you were there, and how many times did Mr. Calloway visit your son and you, especially Carson?
He visited one time in September. We did have really strict COVID restrictions because we were living on a military base. He wasn't able to get onto base because he could not obtain a state issued ID. He had too many incidences where he could not obtain, he had too many driving incidences that he was not able to obtain a driver's license or state issued ID. So the only option was for him to take Carson off of base and to any place in California, which I was not comfortable with the way that things had been beforehand. And from what I had heard from everybody that was still back here seeing his lifestyle. And so I accompanied them to a trip to LA in September. And I'm glad I did, because the whole time it was filled with just drinking and smoking weed and having a good time. And I was the one who was caretaking for Carson, which thank God I was there. But, you know, it just showed me that it wasn't the right time for Carson to be back introduced to his life. And that was the only time that he did visit California. He told me that he was coming a few times beforehand and then never would show up. One other time that he did come to California with his now wife, it was actually a weekend that I was working. I was managing a cafe on base at the time that we were living there, and I couldn't get the work off to meet them. And so if that is what he's talking about, me withholding him from him, then that's the only thing I can think of. But the other times was my sister flew back to Texas with Carson for him to visit family here 2 times while the time that we were living there.
And this is where you met your husband, Ashton Parker, correct?
Yes, we met him a few months before Carson turned 1.
Okay, and you were introduced through friends, I believe?
Yes, I'm sorry, and before Carson turned 2. Yes, we were introduced. He worked with my brother-in-law.
Okay, and when you moved back, I'm assuming you and Mr. Parker had come to the conclusion he was leaving the Army, correct?
Yes, his term was ending, and so I told him I was going to come back here, let Hunter kind of get more involved into Carson's life and get my life established here in the time being, and kind of get ready for him to come back home for our move to start our family.
Okay, and when did you and Mr. Calloway start having problems with possession and visitation after you moved back?
It was around the time of the holidays, that year of 2021. And then what really started was the move to Fayetteville, which he really didn't get upset about until it came up to the move there.
Okay, and this was in December 2021, and you and your husband met with Mr. Calloway and his fiance or wife at the time?
Yes, and we were out with my brother-in-law and sister with them.
And did you expressly tell Mr. Hunter that you were probably going to be moving to the Fayetteville area at some point?
Yes, it was undecided if we were going to be staying for sure in Austin, but it was more leaning towards the side of going to Fayetteville.
Okay, and do you have any real cause for concern about who's really taking care of Carson when he's in possession of Mr. Calloway?
Yes, I do. I know that he does spend more time with his stepmother while he's there, which it doesn't concern me, just the fact that he's not getting as much time with his father as he is with her. And the fact that I do see that he's spending a lot of days on their time, staying the night with other family members and calling me from their homes. And that I don't think that they really utilize their quality time with Carson. And I know that family wants to see him, but on my time, I utilize as much time that I can to have quality time with him, as well as incorporate family into it.
You've already talked about your work schedule at school. Would you please, just to make sure we're clear on this, tell the court when you go into work and when you get off and what arrangements you make for Carson?
So I go in at 7, and from the school that I work at, he would take a bus to the primary school. And then I get off of work an hour and a half before he is out of school. So I am the one that is able to pick up and take. I'd be the sole person taking care of him and after school for extracurricular sports appointments, you know.
Right, okay. All right, and as far as, let me see, health insurance, do you have your son covered or did have him covered through your health insurance at work, I believe?
Yes, I was paying almost 700 for our plan. His was about 346. And it was pretty steep for our family. And with our daughter coming in the end of March, we moved over to my husband's plan. It's a lot cheaper for our family, or just it's a better plan for our family and more affordable as well with the benefits.
All right, I'd like to go to screen share for this document exhibit R number 20. Okay, my apologies, Your Honor. Ma'am, do you recognize this document?
Yes, that's our temporary insurance card.
And this is through your husband's employment, I believe?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to submit that into evidence as respondents number 20.
Any objection to respondent 20?
No objection.
R20 is admitted.
Thanks, Your Honor. Okay, also, let me take a look here. Oh, yes, and when did you and Mr. Parker get married?
March 4th of 2023.
And do you have a photo of that wedding?
Yes, I believe there's one of us with Carson or our family. I think is the one that I submitted.
Okay, is this a photo of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Your Honor, this is respondent number 15. I'd like to admit that into evidence. There's no objection.
No objection.
R15 is admitted.
Okay, and did Mr. Calloway, well, first off, is it your understanding that Mr. Calloway has never taken your son to a dentist at all?
No dentist, and the only doctor's appointments that I do know of have been sick visits, but his wife does primarily take him.
Okay, and wasn't there a visit when your son, I think it was very recent, like in the last few months, when you and your husband went out of your way to try to get Mr. Mr. Hunter to go to a doctor's appointment?
Yes, it was actually for his 5-year checkup. I did schedule it at his pediatrician in Cedar Park to make it convenient for them to be able to attend. Hunter said that he could not do it. He had work and to take it up with his wife because that is her job. The household stuff and doctors is her responsibility, not his. And so then we ended up just taking Carson ourselves and picking him up from their home to take him. I come to find out Hunter was sleeping upstairs the entire time from time of pickup to time of drop off. And we know that because his wife did let us know if their dogs were upstairs with him while he was sleeping and they were making a lot of noise. And so it just kind of was a slap in the face to us that, you know, we did go out of our way so that we could all be attentive for him, and they didn't want to.
Okay. And so this is after you went out of your way to try to get Mr. Calloway to go to a doctor's appointment, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And I know, or this is something I think we need to get clarified for the court's record. Given what has happened with Mr. Carson and with Mr. Calloway in the past and your concerns about him, why did you agree and why did you acquiesce or agree to doing the week on, week off in the last 2 years or so?
Well, it was like what I was telling Nisreen. I did feel comfortable after my family and Carson were introduced to Gabby, as well as meeting her myself. It made me feel a lot more comfortable and that I could be communicating with her as well. And that the fact that I was in Cedar Park at the time at the beginning of transitioning to sharing custody of him with somebody. And at that time, I mean, it wasn't as strict of a 50-50 custody. I mean, Carson would call me and want to come stay at my house on their time, and it was no biggie. It wasn't as strict of a 50-50 custody. It was more of a, you know, what was best for Carson. It didn't get as strict and as hostile until we did move out here.
Okay, and have you also had an incident that took place about the same time that we had our hearing before Judge Burgess in October 2022?
Yes, I was sent a video of Hunter up in Oklahoma with a friend. drinking and driving and waving a firearm while driving.
Okay, and you have not altered this video that you received in any way?
No, it's straight from the source on Snapchat.
Okay, and you're confident it is Mr. Calloway that's doing the driving?
Positive.
Okay. And I'd like to go to screen share.
Your Honor, objection to relevance.
Your Honor, he's talking about it goes to responsibility and essentially growing up. I'm sure Mr. Calloway has in some ways. But Your Honor, this is an incident that happened like barely a year ago while the court proceedings were taking place. He was driving recklessly in Oklahoma, waving a firearm, waving a handgun around. And he's had this driving history that he's had. He's been terminated from a job before because he got in a wreck.
The
I think it
objection
shows.
to relevance is overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Mason, we're just seeing a blank screen, a black screen with just a banner in the middle.
You're not able to see it, Your Honor?
We cannot see the video. And we're running very short on time. I can view this. Which exhibit number is this?
This is exhibit number 18, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to have to look at respondents 18. I mean, we're losing minutes. We only are down to 13. So clearly you're having some issues with the video presentations. And so I think you just need to go ahead with your client questions. And I'd like a brief summary before noon of the evidence.
Okay, Ms. Parker, this video that you received, what did it indicate? Would you describe what you saw in it?
Yeah, it worried me that he, the carelessness that he has to be driving that reckless, especially that far from home. I mean, especially with his wife having another baby on the way, it doesn't show much responsibility or thought as to the outcome that could happen, losing a life or ending up in jail. It just was very careless to me.
Okay, so what I'm going to need you to do, Mr. Mason, I'm going to have to interrupt here and interject because I need to understand a little bit more about what R18 is, since we're not going to be able to see it. Where did you receive this video and how, Ms. Parker?
I received it from my brother. He saw it posted from a mutual friend that he was in Oklahoma with.
And on what date?
It was October. Let me see. It was in October of 2023 or 2022.
Okay, and so you yourself did not take this video, correct?
No, I was sent it because we are not friends on Snapchat.
Okay, so you don't have any way to know whether it was altered in some way.
I mean, on Snapchat, you can't really alter anything. My brother was taking a video from a different phone of the Snapchat that was playing, that was posted.
Okay, so you don't suspect that the Snapchat was altered, but what about the original video that was posted?
No, ma'am, it was not altered. It was from my family.
Okay, but you don't have the person who filmed it with us today?
My mom is here. She's a witness, and she was with my brother when he took it.
Okay. All right, are there any objections to R18?
Yes, Your Honor, I did just pull it up and look at it, and I'm going to object to it as though I don't know who's the person who took it. It looks like it's taking it from another phone. And so I'm going to object because I don't know when this was taken. It doesn't have a date stamp on it, time, and it looks like the person who has that video is not even Hunter's name. So I'm just going to overall object to it as not properly authenticated.
Okay, that objection is sustained.
I found the date if you were interested. It was October 13th. And it was one of his best friends that did take the video.
Okay, which year?
2022.
Okay, Ms.
Same
Meg-
objection, Your
Okay,
Honor.
okay, the objection sustained.
Okay, but, Ms. Parker, that does, just seeing that does cause you concern that Mr. Calloway has not really, I guess, absorbed, being a parent, being a father.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Okay, does that video, or does that what you saw yourself,
Yes.
does that cause you concern about Mr. Parker's, I'm sorry, Mr. Calloway's maturity level, if you will, as a father?
Oh, of course, yeah. And from, everything else that I have seen, I raised it concern in our initial temporary orders hearing, and it was disregarded as well. I've had many concerns with things that I've seen, and it has been objected and disregarded.
Okay, and getting back to the issues of schools, have you done some research into school systems in private schools in the Belleville area?
Yes, there is a handful of them. One in particular, the Faith Academy. It's very well spoken of. We know a lot of people who do take their kids there, and it's spoken very highly of in our area.
Your Honor, I'd like to go to screen share again.
You may.
Ma'am, do you recognize this document?
I can't see anything.
You,
It just
Yeah.
shows a web bar.
We can't see anything, Mr. Mason. Okay, we're down to 7 minutes time, and I want the parties to be able to summarize the evidence.
yes, Your Honor, I'll move on, but you have looked into the Faith Academy, correct?
Yes, we have other options.
Okay,
Would you be able
and
to get my
also,
witnesses as well? Just a question, I'm sorry.
I couldn't hear you, Miss Parker.
Will we be able to get to my witnesses as well?
No, I mean, we're not without resetting the hearing.
Your Honor, the question I have is that to the opposing counsel, they got over 2 hours.
They did not get over 2 hours. There was your cross-examination, and your cross-examination counted against your time. I can certainly check and see, but that too will take time in order to calculate how many minutes each side used. Who are you still needing to call?
Your Honor, I'd like to call my I'd like to call Becky Malin, my client's mother.
Okay, I have to go to a meeting at noon due to the emergency in the building, as I previously mentioned. The witnesses that you still need to call include Miss Malin.
I guess Ms. Ashton Parker, my client's husband, Kristen Riley, and Megan Perkins. And I know I probably can't get to all of them.
No, you can't get to any of them. It's 11:55. And so I think what we're going to have to do is just recess, and you all are going to have to get back on the schedule.
We have to continue the hearing, Your Honor.
Yes. Are there any, what issues, if any, require an immediate ruling from the court?
Well, Your Honor, I mean, it's where, as we talked about, both opposing counsel and I, about who's going to have the right to determine, and also who's going to be able to make educational decisions. I think the other issues can be done by agreement.
But I also don't know, Your Honor, that needs to be decided today. I mean, of course, we all want it to be decided and
Right.
resolved, but he's not.
Yeah. I think you'll just, you're just gonna have to get back on the schedule in front of me. The announcement of 2.5 to 3 hours just wasn't realistic, especially Mr. Mason, given your technological challenges. You just have to figure out how to do that more efficiently. We lost a lot of time just waiting for things that didn't actually get presented to the court. So you have to practice. You have to, get somebody from your staff to work with you so that that is seamless. It shouldn't be taking so long. I mean, we probably lost 45 minutes just waiting on ineffective presentation of the exhibits. But I do want your client to be able to present her witnesses, and so we're going to just have to do that when you will return. I don't want her to be prejudiced by either the court emergency or an inability to present her witnesses. So Ms. Tanner and Mr. Mason, if you would please confer and see when you can get back to the court. And it has to be in front of me. Ms. McGee is out this week, but Mr. Delarue is helping me while she's out. If you don't know when you're able to get everybody back in front of the court today or tomorrow, then you can call Ms. McGee on Monday and she can get you back on my calendar. I'm on the family docket for the next 3 months, so we should be able to do it. But given all of the challenges we've had, it probably makes sense for you all to be in person when you come back.
Yes, Your Honor, we'll figure that out.
Okay, I appreciate it. And Mr. Mason, you were originally scheduled to be in person, right, Ms. Tanner?
Yes, Your Honor. we
Oh, no,
were
you were
in person,
remote
then
in
we
front
agreed
of,
to remote.
I think you were remote in front of Judge Sweefer, and you all just got shifted over to me because all my hearings were in-person hearings. Okay. You want to try I have to get onto another Zoom right now, a Zoom call. So I'm going to ask you all just to work online with either Mr. LaRue or Ms. McGee when she's back on Monday. Can you all do that?
Yes, Your Honor, we'll take care of that.
Okay, super.
Do you want us to have
Everybody else? What's that, Mr. Mason?
do you want us to have an in-person hearing with you?
I think that would benefit everybody. The caveat to that is, I don't know when our court building is going to be up and running again. And so at a minimum, I just need the electronic presentation of exhibits to be efficient. So between now and then, I just need you to practice getting those exhibits up and running so that we can do that efficiently, okay? If we can't figure out how to get you in person, I will know more at the meeting that starts in 1 minute, okay? That's why I'm getting a report to see when our courthouse is going to be open again. But please talk about dates first, and then we'll try to figure out whether you will be in person or remote, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor. Enjoy your meeting.
All right. Thank you very much. Y'all are excused. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank
Okay.
you.
General, I'll confer with Ms. Alana, with Ms. Tanner and Ms. Masri about a date.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.